Hi dear students, welcome back to genetics, and today we are going to talk about the environmental effect of phenotypic expression. Various environmental factors have a very important role in triggering the gene expression. And of course, we know that the genotypic expression or the genotypic triggering is related to the phenotypic expression of a particular trait also. You can see that various factors, such as let it be the factors of the internal environment as well as the external environment of an organism, can influence the phenotypic expression. If you go to consider the internal environmental factors, we mainly include two different factors which have been related to the gender. Now, for example, the sex influence traits as well as the sex limited traits will be influenced by the gender factor. And if you go to consider the external environmental factors, we can see that various agents, let it be light, temperature, chemicals, drugs, etc., they all play a very important role in the expression of the phenotype. So, these factors, such as it can also be sometimes diet, temperature, oxygen levels, the humidity, light cycles, and also the presence of mutagens, which will impact on the animal's genes, which has to be expressed. And ultimately, when a gene is being expressed, the phenotype also is being found to be different. I guess you know what is a phenotype. The phenotype is mainly how a particular trait is being expressed. Now, tallness and dwarfness, these are the phenotypic expressions of one particular trait. The two different phenotypic expressions. And you have another one, a curly hair and a straight hair. These are also phenotypic expressions. All these expressions come as a result of what? The gene, the expression of the concerned genes. And we can see that various of these some of the genes are being controlled by environmental factors also, and the expression of some genes are being controlled by these environmental factors, which could be different among different organisms. So in this session, we are going to find out what are the basic environmental factors which could influence the gene expression and ultimately the phenotype. Now, coming to the internal environmental factor, gender is a major factor. The organisms can either be male or they could be female. And there are certain traits such as a sex influence traits which are being found to be those are which express differently in two sexes. If you go to consider sex influence traits, they are being considered to be as autosomal. That is, they are being coded by the what? The somatic chromosomes, not by the sex chromosomes. Okay. So, such traits which are expressed differently in two sexes are considered to be as a sex influence traits. And so, in two different genders of an organism, these sex influence traits will be expressed at a different way. So, the gender of the organism is something which will influence the sex influence trait. And one example of a sex influence trait is baldness. Baldness has been found to be predominant in the case of males. You know what is baldness? Baldness is mainly the process of hair loss. And this has mainly been influenced because of the presence of hormones such as testosterone and dihydrotestosterone. And this happens only when the levels of these two hormones have been found to be very high. So, in the case of males, you can see that the hormonal level of testosterone and dihydrotestosterone increases and at a particular age, it increases at a very high rate rather than when they are when young. So that is the reason why as a man becomes old, the his baldness pattern increases. Okay, when a person is young, the level of these hormones in the males are being found to be very less. So during that time, they would have profuse hair. But as they age, the hormones of testosterone and dihydrotestosterone would increase, and then the concept of baldness will be, or the phenotype of baldness will be expressed in those males. Now coming to even in females, sometimes you can see that in women, you can see that at the time of high levels of stress, what happens? The adrenal glands can produce testosterone and then they can convert it into dihydrotestosterone. And in such cases also, women can get a case of hair loss. So the gender, as we mentioned over here, is indirectly influencing the expression of the genes which are being influencing the sex influence traits. What are the sex influence traits? These are those traits which are expressed differently in two sexes, and male baldness or a male baldness is mainly being involved with the testosterone as well as the dihydrotestosterone levels in their human bodies. And even in women, if stress triggers the production of testosterone and further convert it into dihydrotestosterone, it could result into hair loss. Now, the next factor or the next internal environmental factor which we talk about is the one which has been associated with the sex limited traits. In the sex limited traits, they are considered to be as what? They are also been found to be autosomal, and unlike the sex influence traits whose expression differs according to the sex limited traits are expressed in individuals of only one sex. So it is that particular trait is limited in a particular sex. That is the thing what we talk about, the sex limited traits. Now, an example of a sex limited trait is lactation or milk production. Although the genes of gene producing milk are carried by both the males and the females, only in lactating females this gene is being expressed. Okay, so the sex limited traits are also being considered to be influenced as by the internal environmental factor. Only when a lactating female is, or the female starts lactating, the gene expression, the expression of those genes which produces milk is being expressed. And you should also know that not a female does not produce milk throughout her life. Only at the time when she is conceiving and when she is giving birth for a baby, the process of lactation happens. So it's gender is an important factor, is an internal environmental factor, and within the gender also, in the case of sex limited traits, you can see that it is limited to one particular gender only, and the process of lactation happens only at a particular time where a woman is conceiving and giving birth to an offspring. So this is a case at which the internal environmental factor influences the expression of genes. We spoke about the sex limited traits which are being found only in one particular sex, as we mentioned the lactation in women, as well as the sex influence traits which is also autosomal, but it is being influenced by the hormonal levels in different in different genders. In the males, when testosterone is being found to be higher level, it could influence the or trigger the production of genes which are responsible for the baldness. And in the females, normally the due to there is a less or absence of testosterone normally, they do not have much of baldness. But when the level of stress been found to be higher, or when due to some abnormal reasons, if the female starts producing testosterone, then the concept of baldness will be triggered even in a woman. I guess you got an idea about how the internal environmental factor can trigger a particular gene expression. We'll be continuing with the other environmental factors in the coming sessions. Thank you for now.